Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug podcast. If you're watching this on the YouTube, you're extra lucky because you might have one ugly man on a screen, but luckily you have a very beautiful man on the screen as well. Of course, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about our guest this evening, the main event of ACW, the history maker, formerly the head official and now the head wrestler, the best of the best, and obviously the guy that I said first was great when nobody else listened, and now he's fantastic, and now you can all suck my balls, lunatrix. It is, of course, Roger Sears. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for having me. I didn't think I was going to have to talk for a minute. I thought it was just going to be like an hour of you singing my praises.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to talk that much. Basically, Roger Sears is amazing. You need to follow him on all social media. You need to buy tickets to see him wrestle. And that's pretty much it for the podcast. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks,
and now, an hour-long highlight video. How have you been, mate? How are things?
Yeah, good. Thanks. And yourself?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that somebody that we know well has given me a shitty illness, I'm fine. Thanks for that. I've only got like head commentary duties on Coliseum this weekend. Cheers for that. I never liked Pepsi Max. Never liked Pepsi Max. It was all about Coke with sugar as well. I've none of that sweetener nonsense in my house. Anyway, that's the inside joke for two people down. Roger Sears, you are a fantastic wrestler, as I've always said. However, for the people watching who aren't aware of you, particularly our American audience who will be watching, where does wrestling all start for you?
So I first became a fan way back in 1990 at school, and somebody else introduced me to it. I had absolutely no idea what it was, and he let me borrow a videotape. And for those of you who don't know, that was what we had before DVDs. For some strange reason, it only had the last two matches of WrestleMania 6 on it. So my first introductions were Jimmy Snuka versus Rick Rude, and then Hogan and the Warrior.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was
steroids.
Yeah, I was hooked. But it was so hard getting hold of being able to watch stuff up to date. So it wasn't until just over a year later when I actually got to see it, my first up to date pay-per-view. So my first one was SummerSlam '91, which I saw like a few weeks after it happened. And I don't know if people will remember it, but the opening match is a 6-man tag, and the first guy who comes out to ring is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but he's got the whole stuff on and he breathes the fire, and there's 11-year-old me going, oh my god, this is amazing. And then by the time Brett and Perfect had wrestled for the IC title, that was it. I was in love with the business then. Yeah. And because I was so impressionable and Brett won, that was my guy and on. So
Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler, so I'm very happy. Yeah, he's the reason why. 92 WrestleMania against Roddy Piper, that was what got me in. So yeah, happy days. So yeah, you didn't break into the business traditionally, so to speak, did you? You started a little bit later than the average human being. I don't want to mention your age because, you know, at the end of the day, you still look younger than me, and you're rocking the mohawk, you know. Chase, all you need is a beard, mate, and you can be Zangief in the next Street Fighter reboot. But what's the first taste of wrestling from your point of view, where you first, you know, got into the physical aspect of wrestling, training, things of that nature?
So discarding all the messing about with my mates when I was younger.
We've all done
it. The first time when I actually did anything properly was I was 20, and I went off to a training camp. It was supposed to be a week-long training camp, and second day in I got hurt. Yeah, I look back now and realize we shouldn't have been getting taught what we were taught, but we were being taught suplexes on the second day, and we're doing it on normal gym mats with a crash mat to land on. And as the guy's gone to lift me up for a suplex, the arm that would be round the back of my head, he's just dropped to his side. So pretty much as I've got vertical, I've just gone straight down and landed next to the crash mat on the back of my neck and my head. And my neck was absolutely killing me. And I had a terrible night's sleep in the ring that night. And then the following day, tried to gut it out for like half the day before going, I got to go home. I got a job that I need to go back to the following week. And as much as I want to say, oh, it was this or that, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't mentally ready for it. Knowing what I know now, I'd have been eaten alive in a locker room in 5 minutes back then. I was so highly strung as a young man that I wouldn't have survived. I just was not mentally ready for wrestling back then.
Yeah, you have a similar kind of trajectory to me. I started training at 18, 19 and just immediately, like, I had a couple of very basic shows which weren't proper shows in front of audiences, to be fair, in venues, but nothing like, you know, that you would be proud of. And then just realized mentally that I was very naive, very stupid, very anxious, very terrified of everything.
Yeah.
Like, terrified of everything. Still am now, if you can believe that. And but yeah, no, it took me a long time to get back to wrestling. When did you return to wrestling? When did you feel like mentally, right, I'm ready to go?
Many years later. It wasn't until I actually started training for, you know, getting to where I'm at now. So it wasn't until I was 38. But
What made you did you not at any point in those 18 years think, I want to revisit it? Or did you just never feel mentally like you're ready?
I did, but I'd look at it and see, you know, where's the closest training school. And I'd always, I guess I'd always kind of make excuses to myself, like, oh, I can't do it because of this. So there's a time in my mid-20s when I thought I'd like to have a go at it, because there was somebody I worked with who was a big wrestling fan. It's how we became really good friends, just this mutual love of wrestling. And of course, we'd prat about on his trampoline, doing stuff that likely to get yourselves hurt because you're not trained and have no idea what you're really doing. And then we both were like, well, maybe we should think about seriously, you know, training and getting taught. Then life kind of gets in the way. You know, I met somebody, had a child, and he started training for the army. And excuse me for a minute while I say this, but he actually lost his life serving our country in Afghanistan. That wasn't a setback or anything for me for why I didn't get into it. It was, I was always trying to make excuses for distance, and I can't do it because of this, or, oh, I've got a kid now. And there was always a reason why. But yeah, other than finding a school that was really, really close to me, that was what did it, I think, was the distance thing. Because once I'd started having a family, it was like, can I really devote the time I have to devote to actually get semi-competent at it, let alone good at it? Yeah, so that's why it took so long, because there was nowhere nearby. You know, I know it's a pretty lame excuse, but as I've got older and matured more, I understand more of how it all works and the level of commitment and everything that you need to put into it. But yeah, for all those years, it was almost like I'd make an excuse to not get into it.
Well, good news is you did get into it, and turns out you're really fucking good at it. So here we are. Fast forward,
Yes.
you're 38, 39, you've started training. Was Fight Star the first place where you got, you know, your sort of training?
Yes, it was.
How was your experience of Fight Star as a training facility?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it. A good group of people. I thought I was trained well, trained properly. I think I'd like to think it shows in my work that you see now. That's where all the fundamentals were, you know, based on where it all started. So yeah, I think I was trained well. I think the school was good. It was everybody seemed to get on. You get those ones who drop out, obviously, because then they can't handle what it is involves. But no, I thought I was trained well. Like I said to you, because I think it shows now in where I'm at and what I can do.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the people who did stick it out from Fight Star ended up being really good. You know, you got to train alongside some people who you're now working with on a more regular basis.
Yeah.
What people don't realize about you is that you cut your teeth quite a bit as a referee. When did you first find that you were kind of thrown in the deep end as a ref? Because that's not actually nearly as fun a job as people think it is.
That was literally a Fight Star. It was when I started training, I was asked, would I referee the first student show, because I was about a month or so behind the other guys when I joined up. And of course, I made that cardinal sin of actually being good at it. And then it kind of got lumped on me of like, I refereed that first student show. Then I'd referee all of the main Fight Star shows while I was still doing my training, working up to my debut. But yeah, it was, I fell into it by accident. And unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, I was good at it and therefore got put into that role all the time.
Did you enjoy being a referee though? Like, did you find it useful and valuable to you?
I always looked at it as having the best seat in the house. Yes, I'm working, but I'm actually getting to learn from watching these guys in the ring. I would recommend it to anyone to actually do some refereeing, simply because it is a great learning experience. You get experience in front of a crowd without actually being the focal point.
Yeah, the qualities of a referee differ depending on where you go. What would you say are the most important qualities of a referee?
Staying out of the way. Consistency with things like when you're doing your counts or pinfalls or outside of the ring and stuff. It's kind of hard because it just kind of came to me naturally of doing it. And I know a lot of people really, really struggle to do the refereeing side of it. So because you're there to help the guys tell a story, but also you need to be sort of not really spoken, well, you need to nobody be speaking about you afterwards. They just want to be talking about the guys. Yeah, because I've had it in only my second match. I was in, guy had me in a headlock. I went to shoot him off the ropes, and the referee was actually stood there in the middle of the ropes where I was pushing the guy into, and it's like, for God's sake, get out of the way. Because my refereeing experience, I'm like, stay in the damn corners, for God's sake. But but yeah, keeping out of the way and just making sure you're consistent with your counts and stuff. You can't go too far wrong, really, from that. At least that's my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, it's I mean, my very first refereeing gig was refereeing you. So, arguably one of the best referees I've ever seen. So I was just like, shit, if I suck at this, he can finally let me have it for once if I suck. So that's why I was very quiet. Yeah, no, it's not an easy job, but it is a fun job. I actually like it. I enjoy it. Like you say, you get a chance to learn and experience wrestling from an entirely different perspective. Nobody ever grows up thinking, I want to be a referee. Nobody ever thinks that until they get in there and realize that actually it's a really valuable, very important job.
Yeah.
From refereeing, you then get your opportunity to break in a wrestling standpoint. Do you remember your first match, your debut match?
Unfortunately, yes.
Who was your debut match with?
Oh God, I was in a 6-man elimination match. So it was like all against all, tag in and out, and it was terrible. Things, how things go wrong anyway. But yeah, there was a point where 2 guys stayed in the ring for far too long and pretty much killed the crowd. And not that the crowd was great to begin with, obviously, but yeah, it wasn't great. But I got down to being the last 2 before getting eliminated. But
it's all right. They must have had a bit of faith in you.
Well, a little bit, I suppose. Yeah.
How long have you been wrestling for now? Because I've been watching you for nigh on a year, but you must have been wrestling before that.
It's nearly 4 years since I started training, and I didn't make my debut until I think I was about 8 months into my training when I made my debut. That's obviously on a student show, so a little more forgiving crowd. Yeah, so it's been, what are we talking, roughly 3 years, I think. Yeah, roughly 3 years I've been wrestling for. Obviously, COVID.
I imagine COVID kind of derailed your momentum because you were just starting to get going.
Yes, I think from where we were with Fight Star, I was like right on the verge of, I'm about to get onto the main shows and not just wrestling student shows. And then something happened. and then obviously COVID's happened, and yeah, so it kind of derailed the
Yeah.
stage I was at for wrestling on shows. But I was able to keep training because the person I was working with was able to train with me.
So Fightstar essentially dissolves,
Yep.
disappears, and is replaced with ACW.
Yes.
Here's a fun fact. Not many people actually know what ACW stands for. Now, JC Cardi recommended something to me based on my nickname that you might have heard, the AC. We're not going to use that term on here because that is incredibly flagrant, to say the very least. What does ACW actually stand for? Do you know?
Ascension Championship Wrestling.
Excellent. I always thought it was all championship wrestling. I'll play it safe. It'll be fine. Obviously, the Ascension, for anyone who might be kind of familiar with Fightstar and an ACW, I think the whole idea is probably that this is a company that's ascended from something else, like it's risen, it's been the ashes.
Yes.
And of course, that's only been going just over a year now. You recently had your 1 year anniversary. How do you find the process of ACW compared to what Fightstar was like? Do you feel like there's a different essence, there's a different style, a different vibe?
A little bit. I don't think we've swayed too much from the kind of vibe and that from Fightstar. We are, more of our own entity than that. And we rely more on our own guys than what Fightstar did. Fightstar brought in people a lot more than what we do. But yeah, because I'd say we have more of a focus on we want to be building our own guys, and so it's a little bit different. But to me personally, it doesn't feel like it's been a massive leap, like a completely different company. But definitely a bit of a change.
So here we go. ACW kicks off. You have your first show. I came in very soon after that to do the first videography of ACW, or at least, from my perspective. And the first time I get to see you, I believe you wrestled Thrash Katie in a one-on-one match. I was fairly critical of the match overall. I'm not, as you know me, I have no problem telling the truth, because personally, I don't think there's enough of that in wrestling. I remember thinking that you were a good worker that needed more crowd work, and I remember not liking Thrash Katie at all and thinking he sucked, if I'm being honest. And seeing as he keeps calling me a wrestle dog, he can suck my balls and all. You'll do nothing about it, you twink. But yeah, the bottom line is, from there, the progression that I've seen in you is arguably the best progression and the most evolution of a wrestler in terms of talent I've ever seen. And that's quite astonishing, because you know how much I work. You know how many companies I go to. You know how many wrestlers I work with. I even wrestle myself. Not very well, has to be said, as anyone who's seen me will absolutely confess. But I kind of work in every asset of wrestling. I'm not just some fat mark or a Wendy boy, as I was called recently by somebody, which is an interesting term. No idea. Like Wendy's, maybe it's that. I don't know. So how do you feel that you have changed over the last year in particular? Do you feel and see that progression for yourself? Do you see all the hard work that you've put in? Or do you still sit there as the modest gentleman that you are and think, I'm still nowhere close to where I want to be as a wrestler?
Obviously, you're always learning doing this. I don't think you ever stop. Obviously, there'll be improvements that I want to make. But in terms of where I was at from that first show you saw me on to where I'm at now, it's like watching two different people.
Yeah.
As a baby face, I think it's probably fair to say there was a certain ceiling I would reach if I continued doing that, where I think the best I probably could have hoped for would have been that baby face who the heel goes through to get to the top. And that probably would have been my ceiling if I'd stayed as a baby face, because I was a bit bland, let's be honest about it. I wasn't overly sold on turning heel when it was first mentioned to me.
I was going to ask you about that. How did you feel turning heel?
When it was first mentioned to me, I wasn't overly like, this is great. I agreed to it. And then I think a few days later, I'm there going, oh, is this really going to be a good idea? I'll do it. But true wrestler kind of mentality of like, well, it's got to lead somewhere, you know, it's got to mean something, or else I'm not going to do it. So yeah, once I turned heel, the reaction and the fact that I enjoyed it so much when I turned on Rusty, yeah, from there it was like, just, it's gone from strength to strength, and I feel really comfortable being a heel, and I don't want to be, and I think it shows I don't want to be one of these cool heels, which is like, it's the common thing in wrestling, isn't it? And I think that goes all the way back to sort of the NWO and DX days, doesn't it? Where it's like, it's be the heel, but you want people to still like you. Whereas for me, I want to be a heel and I want people to just fucking hate me. I want them to think I'm a prick, because that I think is how the heel should be, really. Get some proper heat on it.
That's a proper professional speaking for all you little marks out there flipping around as heels. Like, I'm looking at you, young bucks, looking at you. Being a heel is an art. What I love is that every great wrestler that I've seen, from the independents all the way through to mainstream, they find their gear, they find their vibe in the big heel moments. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock cut their teeth as heels. You recognize them based on work they did as heels. There's not many guys who have the clean-cut babyface gimmick from start to finish. You know, even John Cena, we remember him so fondly when he was originally a heel, Doctor of Thugonomics, things like that. So here you are now, cutting some of the best work that you can ask of a heel in the entire country, especially in the South Coast. How far do you want to go with this? How far do you want to take this form, the main event Roger Sears, before you decide to click and evolve again? Because one of the big things about wrestling is that you've always got to be evolving, changing with the times, changing your style to suit the audience that's in front of you.
I'd like to think the audience will tell me when it's time. Rather than putting any kind of a time frame on it, I think I'll ride this wave until, you know, it reaches a point of like, right now I've got to change it up. I've got to find something different. At the moment it's working. So I'm quite happy sticking with it for now. I don't see an immediate end to it. I don't think we do enough shows for there to be overexposure of it, I think, is probably the best way to sum it. Yeah, so I think the audience, when they've had enough of it, they'll let me know, and that's when it's going to be time for me to change it up.
How does it feel to go from guy who was good at refereeing and could, you know, supply a small babyface run to now being, you know, I think the ACW championship tournament that you had, the 4-man tournament, that right there signifies Roger Sears is part of the spine of ACW. Roger Sears is one of the main players, and that's probably what helped facilitate main event Roger Sears as well, knowing that you were becoming a spine of the company. How does it feel? Do you feel like you've earned that spot, or do you just try and keep it as humble as possible? Or do you generally sit there and think, yeah, I am the spine in this company now. I have worked hard enough to be considered one of the best?
Oh, it sounds a bit egomaniacal to say it.
Not enough.
I do genuinely believe I'm probably the top heel in ACW right now. But I'm also still humble about the fact of, like, you know, it has taken a lot of hard work and dedication to get to where I am. I like to think I deserve it. Other people may have a different opinion. I don't know. Nobody's ever said anything to me that
Those people are wrong.
Well, nobody's ever said anything to me to the effect of they don't think I deserve to be where I am. So yeah, there's not really an awful lot more I can say about it than that. I just, yes, I do think, I deserve to be where I'm at. And I do think that, especially with, you know, light of the things that happened on the last show, yeah, I'm the top heel in ACW. As much of an egomaniac as that may make me sound, that is how I feel.
But it's well deserved, and I don't see anybody with as much heel heat. Even at the last show, though, obviously. So, you know, we fast forward to the latest show. It's at the end of October. Outcast come over, the Invasion, and although, to be fair, done probably slightly better than WWF and WCW's Invasion angle, if I'm being honest. Loved it at the time. Don't love it as much now. For me, I'm sitting here as a video. When you're a videographer, you get front row seat as well. It's you and the referee. You're the guys who are in there. You get to see everything, all the little intricate details. It's a very OCD job, and it's a good job for me because I'm very OCD myself. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching you wrestle Rudy Root, which for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, go and check it out on the YouTube channel if it's dropped already. If it hasn't, hurry the fuck up and drop it. You know who who I'm talking to. Get on with it and put a proper description on it. But the bottom line is that match is excellent. That match is, so you've had, for me, career-defining matches against guys like Scott, and Brandon. But then here we are. This is now almost like the polished, finished article. Okay, now you're able to go out there as the biggest heel and provide us with an incredible level of entertainment and a match that suits as well with the right quality of wrestling. So you have that match with Rudy Root. So for me, that's like the first of many. That's your first step in being the best heel, not working your way towards being the best heel. You're now the best heel. So now you get a chance to work with that. And immediately after, you align yourself with Jackson Arrow and the Virus Kane Michael. Is this a great opportunity for you? Like, did you enjoy that process? Because all of a sudden now it's gone from, hey, here's Roger, we're building him up as a heel, we're building him slowly, we're giving him good matches. Now all of a sudden you're the focal point of one of the main storylines of a company.
I won't lie, that's probably the most fun I've had in wrestling is when we did that. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, getting booed by everyone for doing it was fantastic. That's like the cheers to me, is when people boo. I love it, because it means I'm doing my job properly if I'm getting that reaction from them. I'd like to think there's some big scope for the three of us working together and what can happen, but obviously plans change. You never put anything down in concrete in wrestling, do you? That's why it's always done in pencil. So I guess it's just a case of seeing where it goes from here. But yeah, it was the most fun I've had, was doing that little bit at the end of Jackson and Brandon's match. That is the most fun I've had in wrestling.
What's the match that you hang your hat on so far? If people came up to you and said, right, Roger, one match that you're most proud of, that you can sell yourself most on, which is the match that you can hang your hat on right now as your favorite?
You see, the one with Rudy has come so damn close now. I do think probably my finest match is probably the championship final against Scott. I think that's probably the one right now. And yeah, my work with Rudy, because it was very, very smooth. After I've watched it back, it's like that. It was a lot smoother than I remember it actually being in there. But
might have something to do with the edit, but I wouldn't know.
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I'll give myself credit at some point.
Yeah, it's, if I'm going to hang my hat on one, it's going to be the championship match with Scott.
That match was a incredible level of emotion. There was an incredible amount of storytelling. Frankly, I'm very disappointed by the result, but that's neither here nor there. The wrong man won. Wrong man won, simple as. But obviously some people know about creative and some don't, and that's just that's a topic for another. Hayden Scott, you're right, buddy. It's a good title match, buddy. I love him dearly, he knows that. But yeah, no, I always like a chaser anyway. I think it's very important that the first champion is heel, because it builds for me. So that's just my opinion, but it's easy to say that in hindsight. Bottom line though is great match, and Scott Jones is kind of like he's your rival, isn't he? He's your long-term dance partner, so to speak. Everyone has an opponent that they think of, the hero and the villain kind of thing. You've got the Joker and Batman dynamic. People think of Rock, they think of Austin. It's that kind of thing. They think of Brock Lesnar, they think of Kurt Angle, they think of Shawn Michaels, they think of The Undertaker, those kind of different things. And here we have Scott Jones and Roger Sears. How important is Scott Jones and the rivalry you've had with him in growing to be the wrestler you are today?
Oh wow, yeah, it's played a massive role in it, definitely. You're getting to work with somebody who is that good. It is funny you say about this rivalry, because if me and Scott had our way, this would have started all the way back in Fight Star when I was refereeing the very first student show match, because he wrestled Rusty, but Scott was as a heel. And during the course of the match, there was a point where he shoved me and I shoved him back. And we wanted that to lead to me versus Scott. So me as the babyface, Scott as the heel. It never actually happened. So yeah, it wasn't until we've got into ACW when we've actually been able to get in the ring and have the 2 matches that we've had. But it's always been, I mean, I've said to you personally as well about how I've trained so much with Scott. I think it's probably the one person I've worked with in training more than anybody else. So we've had a lot of time to build up a chemistry. And like I say, he's phenomenal. Oh, he does. He is very, very good at it. And when you get a really good dance partner like that, you can't help but improve yourself. I don't know if it works for him, but I definitely think that when I've wrestled him, he's brought out the best in me. I'd like to think I've brought out something in him, but I would definitely say when I've wrestled him, he's definitely brought out the best in me. He's definitely got the best heel work out of me.
I think that the dynamic between the two of you is palpable. And I love the fact there's those little intricate levels of story. It might only be a shove from, years gone past, but that can all be played in if we can get a hand on the footage or whatever. It's building up. It's great. And we can revisit it as well. Scott is easily the most over. He's the biggest baby face in the company. On the flip side, you're the most over heel in the company. So it all kind of makes sense for you to come back to each other. I want to switch gears a little bit and have a look at the other heels of ACW. And I want you to tell me honestly and openly, as a bad guy yourself, how you think their progression has gone. So I want to zone in first of all with JC Cardi. What's the biggest strength and the biggest weakness you think JC Cardi has as a heel?
Oh, wow. What would I say his biggest strength is? His work in the ring is very smooth. He's very calm when working. And I think that enables him to take that bit of time to build his heat. A weakness. I think he's on the verge of being a tweener sometimes with that character.
I think he's too entertaining for his own good.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only aspect of it.
He has that Jericho vibe, doesn't he?
Yes,
like when Jericho was a heel, but people were still laughing a lot because he was funny and entertaining. And it's like,
so heel aspect, he's almost on the fence. For like you say, for an entertainment aspect, people will find the stuff he says funny. So that's the only side of it, I'd say.
How about Thrash Cady? What stands out to you there?
Oh, I love his viciousness. Absolutely
physical, isn't he? Even when he wrestled you, I remember Ebenezer helped me out with cameras the first time I did ACW, and he said that that guy's stiff as houses. He looks really stiff. The big boot he gave you where he just plowed you into the floor. Nothing wrong with it. It looked great, obviously, as long as it's safe. I don't know how safe it was. What's it like wrestling a guy who's not wearing conventional wrestling boots, by the way? Because he was wrestling in proper punk rocker boots.
Yeah, I didn't really notice a difference, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he is a little bit stiff, but not to the point where you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy needs to loosen up. I don't mind if somebody hits me hard.
I like to feel the strike.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than somebody throwing something in and you barely feel them touch you. And you're like, how the hell am I supposed to sell this? Yeah, I'd prefer somebody to whip me a bit harder. And he most certainly does. But I love that about him. Because I think his stuff looks good.
Thrash by name, thrash by nature. What's he need to build on, do you think? What do you think could bring him to the next level?
Wow. I don't know, because he's interacting all right with the crowd. The way he taunts away at them and stuff. I'm struggling to think of what the next step is for him.
I think there are two things that stand out to me. Ring gear could be a little bit more smooth.
Right.
Something that just kind of says more I'm Thrash Katie as opposed to just generic, mosh pit, rocker kind of thing. But also consistency. We've seen how good he can be when he talks and how good he is at giving people shit, basically. But I'd like to see that more consistently in the way he works. I
Okay.
almost feel like the longer a match goes on, the less kind of stuff or material he has to work with. And then he's kind of in a tag match like that, you then have to rely on your tag partner to bring the energy back up as well. That's what tag team wrestling is all about, being able to have that fluidity and bounce between each other. So those would be mine, obviously, just trying to help you out a little bit, because I know you don't want to shit can anyone in case you get in trouble at training or whatever. You can take him. He's a little bitch. Fucking wrestle dorks, please. You're the biggest dork in the room. I mean, I'm a heel as well, so really I should hype him up, shouldn't I? I really should be bigging him up, but he's not quite at that level. Let me ask you something. How did you see Adam Wessex at the last show? What did you think about Adam Wessex and this almighty change of heart he had at the end of the show? For people who don't know, Adam Wessex, the MC of ACW, aligned himself with Ollie Blake, who turned on Scott Jones at the end of the last show to set up the big title match, which happens on December the 3rd, of course, at Parkstone Trades and Labour Club. So what's your kind of viewpoint of that? Because he even said to me recently on social media that he had his eyes on this podcast and he was interested to see what your opinions of the business were going to be.
If I'm being brutally honest, I feel it's a bit of a loss that he's made this term, because he was so good at doing what he did for us. So now he's going to be transitioned over and doing a heel side of it. I feel that there's a potential we're going to lose a lot from it. I guess it's a wait and watch this space to see what he does with it, because he did a good job with the actual turn itself.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that, from my perspective anyway. But yeah, seeing where it's only just happened is a case of weighing up what we've lost and what we'll gain from him being the heel aspect of it. And obviously, until we get a chance to actually him to get out there and do more of it in front of a crowd, I'm guess a little bit on the fence at the moment myself, purely from the aspect of I know what we're going to lose, so now I need to see what we're going to gain from him.
Yeah. Wrestling's a balancing act, isn't it? You take one thing away, you might gain something, but on the flip side, when you gain something, you lose something else.
Yeah.
For you personally, as such a great heel and as such a good bad guy, a proper old school bad guy, what's your thoughts on management? Would you like to have a manager at your side, or do you believe like what you do is absolutely fine with just you?
I think, yeah, from a personal perspective, I think I could probably make it work if I had somebody with me. But I'd probably be thinking either a bodyguard type or a female valet. I don't know if I'd want a male manager. Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, wait, hang on.
Well, we were going down the right direction. Then you said female. I was like, God damn it! Now I've got to have a sex.
I can have male bodyguard.
I was going to say, don't even think about it, Lunatrix. I saw him first. I know what she's up to. She's eyeing a booking now. She's like, oh, I'll be a valet. You shut your mouth and stay an outcast where you belong. Honestly, I mean, the great thing is obviously you've aligned yourself with Jackson and Kane, but one thing that's obviously stands out to them is they're their own entities. So I wouldn't really feel like they could bring much in the way of management to you. Jackson's a great talker, obviously, as we know, fantastic. And Kane is a personality like no other. But then I like what you do by yourself. But I am curious as to, because when you're the biggest heel as well, I think one of the great storytelling dynamics is this idea that, you have to have a vulnerability somewhere, because otherwise you'll just run over everybody. And it's that idea, for instance, with Shawn Michaels, he then brought in Diesel. And all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, the vulnerability of him maybe being a smaller guy, maybe being taken advantage of, has now been completely dissipated by the fact that there's this monster at ringside who's going to fuck up anybody who takes liberties themselves. So it makes them a far more dangerous and it makes them even more easy to hate, because it's that thing of like, well, we thought they might lose, but now their dickhead bodyguard or whatever it is at ringside causing too much shit. Manager, Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman, whoever you want to throw in there, the greats, Bobby Heenan, who is obviously for me the all-time great. What's your feelings on stuff like that? And also tag team partners. Do you like being a solo gun? Would you like to form your own faction, the main eventers?
Ooh, how interesting group is that? I'm actually quite happy on my own. I don't really have any visions of like a full permanent tag team or anything, you know. A stable group could work. But yeah, I think for the most part, I'm actually quite happy being on my own at the moment. Whether that is with we bring in like a bodyguard or anything, not that there's any plans for it, but if it was something that came up, it'd be, let's see if I can make this work. But right now, I think I'm doing all right by myself.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, as much as I'd like to sell myself as a viewpoint, I can just sell you on a podcast. That doesn't bother me. For me, I think it's very important as well in moments like that whoever's aligned with you, it's something that fits with you emotionally and physically. You know, it has to be something that has a good, proper connection in the first place. You know, if you look at someone like a Paul Heyman, for instance, when he's with Brock Lesnar, they already have that deep-seated friendship anyway, so it's easier for them to bounce off. You have to know the strengths of who you're working with and the weaknesses and be able to kind of plug each other's gaps in that way. So one thing that I love about ACW is the backroom staff, the people who work really hard. A lot of people may not realize how hard your wife, especially Jo, works. Like, she works astonishingly hard. I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her.
No, appreciate it.
She works astonishingly hard. She's a wonderful person. She's just like you as well. Like, you're a perfect fit for each other, a wonderful pair of human beings. What does she think when she sees you out there? Is it that thing of like, that's not my husband? What the hell's going on there? Or it's like, finally, yes, good. Is she more like, you know, is she a bit like Palpatine, like good? Good.
Oh, yeah. I think it's probably a more like a wait till I get you home kind of thing.
I saw what you did to Rusty Jack, you naughty boy.
Oh no! I think the other side of it.
Oh, excellent. That's when you know you got a good marriage.
That worked for me. Wait till I get you home.
Definitely the main event.
Oh hell yeah!
We all want a bit of Rog. That's why they call him Big Rog. Don't be fooled. Man is well gifted in every sense. Lord have mercy.
Oh God. I think the only thing that she actually struggles with is hearing people hurl abuse at me. She's doesn't really like that too much, whereas I tend not to hear most of it, if I'm honest with you, when I'm out there.
It's just noise, isn't it, when you're in the ring?
Yeah, and even if I do hear a bit of it, I don't care. I'm there to piss people off. So
they're all Malcolms anyway, so they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, no, I do know there've been a couple of instances that have bothered, where something has been yelled in my direction that have bothered my wife and my son Owen.
Yeah.
Where it was, for them, that was a bit, that was
unnecessary comments.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Because it is family friendly, isn't it, ACW? But one thing about ACW that people don't realize is the fans, like, it's the most ferocious family friendly audience I work with. Like, they are ruthless. Like they have an 18+ attitude for a fucking a 13 crowd. It's very strange. It's family friendly, but they go all in with their insults. I still remember to this day one child yelled at you when you wouldn't release a submission hold. It just basically, that's why you're adopted. I was like, bloody hell. It's a bit much. So also, how do you fucking know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just projecting your own problems on him, kid. Like, it's not our fault you're adopted. That's what happens when you get orphans in the crowd, mate. They're always chatting shit. As everyone knows, rather famously, not a big fan of children at all. Great for a heel, it has to be said. There's nothing, it winds people up knowing, but there is nothing greater as a heel than when you make a child in the front row cry. That for me is the pinnacle of wrestling. I want to feast on the tears of the youth. I like seeing you all suffer. End of story. How very Arab of me. But yeah, no, it's how do you feel about like the crowd in that? Because you have such a loyal, vociferous audience, don't you? Like a lot of places, they have a big turnover in fans. People come for one show, then they may not come that much for the next one. You consistently have that solid big group of people. It's always loud, it's always vocal. The venue's great as well. But that must be a real sense of pride that you've helped build this great little niche, this great little company, and it's always going to be well supported.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, couldn't be happier with the sort of turnouts we're getting. Even on the last show, with it being on a Sunday, there was that little bit of concern of like, have we gone for the wrong day booking this? Is this going to work?
Right.
And we still had a really good crowd again. They made a lot of noise, and so yeah, I'm very grateful for the crowds we get in, and the fact that, like you say, we're getting a core group of people that keep coming back all the time. So great they're coming back, and we're clearly doing something right.
Right. It's time to get serious now, Rog.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah. It's the magic. As soon as I get the iPad out, people start getting nervous. As they should. So I have a list of questions here. I asked people to send in questions that were based on wrestlers and who was the most or who was the least, you know, that kind of thing. So we normally do word association, but depending on how this goes, we might forego word association because you are special. So you're entitled to your own segment as far as I'm concerned. We'll put up some sort of graphic or something, I don't know, Big Roger's opinions. I have no idea. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions based only on the ACW roster, and you have to give me the most honest answer you possibly can.
Uh-oh.
Who believes themselves to be the biggest ladies' man on the roster?
Wow. Oh my God. Biggest ladies' man on our roster. I don't know if there is one, is there? Most of us are all taken.
That's never stopped wrestlers before.
Well, yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah, the old territory days. I mean, you know what Rick Rude was like, baby.
I don't know who the biggest ladies' man would be. I really don't know.
All right.
Let's label it as Cardi, shall we?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Or at least he thinks he is. When you order Chris Jericho on Wish. Bless him. All right. In a similar vein, then, who do you believe to be the most handsome man in ACW?
Oh, it's Brandon, isn't it? Hands down, Brandon Lee.
He's well fit.
Is he? Oh my God.
The first is real.
Touch him in the ring, mate. You know, I got to work with him, so.
I can't believe you just said you got to touch him in the ring. That's phenomenal. There's your soundbite. That's going right on the advertisement.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Who's the most likely to get their feelings hurt?
Oh, wow. Most likely to get there. Oh, he's going to hate me for saying this, but I think it might be Danny Disorder. I think he might be
He's a bit of a melt, isn't he?
I wasn't going to go that far.
I will. I don't care. I'd have to wrestle him. He's gonna fucking one day he's gonna pick up the camera and hit me over the head with it. I swear to God. But I love winding the poor kid up. He's a lovely guy, Danny. He really is. But I just love hecking him on sometimes. I can't help it. So yeah. What do you think? Just as a side note, what do you think about this budding romance that him and Luna Trix have? Did you notice at the last show, Luna Trix was in the crowd and she was shouting some very, shall we say, flagrant comments towards Danny, wanting to have his children, no less.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. No, I don't like that union at all.
Disgusting, isn't it? Nobody likes that.
Happening.
Just stay on the island, Trix. You're annoying me. So it's the biggest love-hate relationship in wrestling is me and Trix. It's hilarious. I do love her, but I also want to kill her. Until I get my wrestling match with her, I'm never going to be happy. Who's the best dressed man in ACW?
Oh, that's Adam Wessex.
He's smooth, isn't he? He's got the
Isn't
waistcoat.
it just, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, Oh yeah, he looks dapper, doesn't he?
He does. He looks like a cruise ship operator if I've ever seen one. This is just an opportunity for me to rip off the roster. Notice how I didn't say anything bad about Brandon Lee just now. You don't have to answer this, but I'll ask it anyway. Who's the ugliest man in ACW?
Sorry?
Who's the ugliest in ACW? That's a harsh question. That's so harsh. I'm going to have words with them afterwards because they're on State of Wrestling address later.
Oh my word, that's an evil question, isn't it?
That is
I'm
evil.
gonna have to pass on that. No, you know what? I'll say it. The Tornado Kid. That's why he wears the mask.
Exactly. What a heinous individual. Stated. And also, you know that he's not going to do anything about it. that's so cruel, but so true. Life's cruel, kid. Get used to it.
There's that heel coming out.
Exactly. So, as I always say, I don't play heel. I'm just real, baby. Right. One more, and then we'll do word association because this is just unkind at this point, and that's coming from me, which is disturbing, but it's a good time nonetheless. Let's go with something nice and positive because there's only 3 positive and about 10 fucking negative. So, right. Who's the hardest worker in the locker room? Who works harder than anyone else at ACW?
Scott James.
Yeah.
I didn't even need to think about that. That one was.
His work rate's astonishing, isn't it? The last show, what a lot of people don't realize, didn't he wrestle like 7 matches in one day?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I can't wrestle 1. And he's wrestled 7.
There might be the odd couple who have a very good work. Well, I think most people there have got a really good work ethic, but in terms of who I have to say is the standout hardest worker, that is Scott.
He's Mr. Above and Beyond, isn't he? He'll do anything, absolutely anything. He was at Rumble. You probably saw, like, I work with Rumble regularly, and I was so excited to see him and Ollie in the locker room. It's a great place to work. So we'll have Roger Sears down there at some point so they can see what a real heel looks like. Just saying. Other than Tate Mayfair's like, what the fuck, mate? I'm in progress. Go fuck yourself. I mean, Tate is pretty good, as to be said. Right. Before we do word association, I know you're not big on technology and stuff like that, but you do have social media, don't you? I will put them in the descriptions. Do you remember your social media tags?
I am Roger Sears Pro Wrestler on Facebook, and it is r.sears.pro wrestler on Instagram. That's all I've.
And you're smart enough to stay off of Twitter.
Yes.
Which is a cesspool of bullshit. Yeah. It's only going to get worse. Thank you very much, Elon Musk. For anyone, maybe you didn't catch them, just click on the descriptions in the podcast, audio or video, and that'll take you directly to those links. Make sure you subscribe and follow. When's the main event t-shirts coming out?
I don't know.
You know what? For once, I'm not going to plug myself because you've got a wonderful partner who makes incredible merchandise for a number of people. So I think it's only fair that your wife gets first crack at making t-shirts for you.
Yeah.
Who made the logo, by the way? Your logo, because it's excellent.
My oldest
Really?
son, he did. Yeah, I gave him a rough idea of what I wanted, and he literally went off 5 minutes later. He comes back and goes, "How about this?" And it was like, "Yeah, that's fantastic. I absolutely love it."
He nailed it. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. He'll have my job at this, right? Just stay in school. No, brilliant job. Really, really good stuff. All right, so it's time for word association. One word to describe these individuals. Don't panic, because I know that you're not the most affluent indie supporter. We're going to stick with ACW and rosters that you've worked within. So let's start with something bleedingly obvious. One word to describe Scott Jones.
Awesome.
Fair, absolutely fair. One word to describe Danny, the Stiff House Disorder.
I have to say he's entertaining.
He is. He's
very
good.
Yeah.
Not sure why he's all of a sudden aligned himself with the fans. I liked him more when he was a prick. I just did. I just feel like some people are made to be that guy, and that's him. One word to describe Brandon Lee.
potential.
I've got fit. That's all I got. That's all I got. One word to describe Rusty Jack.
Fun. Absolutely, yeah.
It's the one. I wrote these down. Nobody cares what I think, but I've written them down anyway. I've written down mine as well. I've got lipstick down because Ebenezer wouldn't stop shouting about him putting his lipstick away when he wrestled him. It was very funny. Like, for anyone who owns dogs, they'll know what I'm on about. Like, so yeah, if you ever feel something rubbing against your leg, yeah, I'd love to wrestle Rusty just because it would be nice to wrestle somebody that I can actually just yeet around without any effort. I think that's what's great. But what a phenomenal worker, especially considering his size and stature. He's really found a great niche in what he does, and he's so good at it. That guy should be on every camp from here to Edinburgh. He's fantastic. One word to describe Thrash Katie.
Vicious, but in a good way. That's not me. I'm not shitting on him. He's vicious or in all right ways.
Good to be violent. Remember that, especially in this is a sport. Remember, this ain't no ballet. One word to describe JC Cardi.
I feel like I'm repeating myself, but he fits in the same bill as Danny Disorder for me. I find him really entertaining. I can't think of anything other to say about him than entertaining in one word. So yeah, I'm sorry, copping out, but I'm saying the same thing there.
I wrote down mustache. It's like an entity of its own. I swear that thing's sentient. I swear it, like at night he goes to sleep and it just leaps off and terrorizes children in the middle of the night. It's something else, that facial hair. It really is. Lock up your kids, because JC Cardi's facial hair is out on the town. It is Halloween after all. Day of the Dead, indeed. One word to describe Big Benny V.
Genuine. I think that's probably people, not so much his character inside the ring. That's the guy, behind the gimmick to me. Really nice guy and very genuine.
Yeah, he's a real sweetheart, isn't he, Ben? Real sweetheart. Yeah, he's a lovely guy. Thankfully, not retiring. So
yes, thankfully.
Good news. So he'll be back sooner than you think. One word to describe Ebenezer the Geezer.
Hilarious.
He's a riot, isn't he?
Oh my God, is he ever?
You were scheduled to wrestle him, weren't you, at IWE before it was sadly cancelled?
Yeah.
I do have it on good authority that you are rescheduled and still will be facing him at some point early next year. What's the thought process going into a match with Ebenezer the Geezer?
I actually think we can work quite well off each other.
Yeah, he's the biggest face in that company as well.
He can do all that comedy stuff, and I can be the serious heel, and I think it'll work really quite well.
I think you've got the perfect chance there to build your heel persona even more as well, because he's one of those guys who is so the other way, so entertaining, so popular that, getting heat on him is one of the easiest jobs you could ever have. So easy. Really is. Yeah. If you want a pro tip as well, go for his back. He's quite weak in the lower back.
Noted.
Yeah, he'll do nothing about it. He's a twink. Although he is my tag team partner, technically, so I should be nicer to him. It's a love-hate relationship. I wouldn't be a death machine if I was nice to everybody. One word to describe Sensational Simon.
Simon's a nice guy. I don't know what else to say too much past that. If I could put my heel head on, if he's sensational, they set the bar very low, but
tell me about it. Tell me about it. I like to call him mediocre Simon, but
that's being evil. But yeah, he's a very nice guy. Simon is.
Yeah, he's like, from
matter as possible. I don't want to piss people off.
Nah, he's mediocre. He should just be Simon in the story. One fucking get in there. It'll do nothing. One word to describe Eddie Kenway.
Oh, he's such a lovely guy, isn't he?
He's the teddy bear of wrestling, isn't he?
He is. He's that you've just summed it up perfectly. Saying that that is absolute perfect way to
The
sum
giant soft toy. Do you know what?
He's
So safe. Have you ever got a chance to work with him? He's so safe in the ring.
only very, very briefly in the course of a rumble. So yeah, I didn't really do much at all. He needs to come out of retirement.
He's
So
been
just
hinting
have
at
a
it.
match with him. I know he's got the itch.
Yeah, we were scheduled to be a tag team and then he retired. So, probably because he didn't want to tag with me, if I'm being honest. I'm seeing a pattern emerge here. Everyone who wants to tag me ends up with somebody else or leaves the business entirely. So Ebenezer retiring soon, just so everybody knows. One word to describe Lunatrix.
Pop it.
Yeah. Everybody, innit? You're right, Pop it. Everybody.
Yeah.
Although she didn't believe in the bandwagon that was Roger Sears. Just saying. I was first. I was driving that bandwagon, hun. I even bought the wagon. Cretins, a lot of you. One word to describe Jackson Arrow.
Talented.
Yeah.
Very.
Could go a very long way. Yeah, he's got the desire and he's got incredible athleticism like no other.
Oh God, yeah.
But he's also got the crowd work to go with it, you know. It's one thing I like about him. He's a complete wrestler. He's not just a great flippy guy. Like he can do everything. That's a great person for you to be aligned. I've noticed that as well. It's a little bit unfair on everyone else, isn't it? Because you're aligned with like two of the best like workers, full stop, in the business. Like that's just unfair. Nobody's beating you in a promo. It's not happening. Not happening. One word to describe the third member of the terrible trio, the Virus K. Michael.
Chaos. I think that's what he brings to his matches is chaos. But beautiful chaos.
It is. It's the divine carnage, isn't it? It's stunning to watch. What a wrestler as well. Stunning talent. Yeah, he's something different. There's nothing like him, and I think that's why I love him so much.
Yeah,
there isn't anyone like that in our business anymore. He really reminds me of he's almost kind of made himself. I don't like using comparisons because that kind of belies the fact that he's his own talent, but he's got that Bray Wyatt factor where he's just so different from everybody else. You know, he really stands out. I love entities, I love characters, I love things that go beyond what we see as traditional wrestling, and he does that so well. Couple more. One word to describe Cameron Anderson.
Gonna say something, but no, I'm not putting that.
Do it.
No. No, that's an insider joke, I think. And
Is that? What? Amanda Gray?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, her name's been mentioned enough on this podcast.
Can we hear wedding bells for this? Or
that's yeah. How's your cover photo, pal? Lord have mercy. Some fans are a different breed. It has to be said.
No
emphasis on the word breed.
He's a good kid, isn't he? But,
he's a good lad, isn't he? He's a really good lad. I'm very proud. He's one of my wrestling sons. So
he's even at shows asked me for like feedback and advice on what he's doing, and in my head I'm going, dude, I've barely been doing this for a fucking heartbeat myself. How can I be the guy offering anybody else advice? But you know, very respectful. Yeah, very respectful.
Yeah, very true. Someone who has admitted to be a huge fan of yours lately, and I wanted to throw them in. One word to describe Ajax.
Oh wow,
he loves you.
Really? I've. This is so bad. I've not really seen much of his stuff at all.
He said that you were like just the consummate gentleman backstage.
That's just age and maturity, I think.
That's one of the good things about getting in the business late. I find that we have a much calmer head for things.
Oh yes, definitely. It's hard for me to say one word about him. I've only really seen. It's only on 2 occasions I think I've really had the chance to meet him. So it's nice to hear he's a fan of my work. And now I feel really bad that I've not seen much of his. But,
Check it out on the Outcast YouTube channel.
That's homework now, is to go and watch more of Ajax's stuff.
There you go. There you go, Ajax. You got the biggest plug of your life on this sodding podcast. Don't pester me again. One word to describe JoJo Sears.
Oh, love. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah,
She's
absolutely beautiful. Yeah, as you know, I don't like approaching people's partners and things like that. I think that's disrespectful. That's just my personal thing. I know a lot of people I think you should always be introduced, but yeah, a real class act and very, very cognizant of who you are as a human being. You just have this beautiful connection and it makes both of you better people for me.
Yeah.
And one word to describe the main event, Roger Sears.
You just won. I think you summed it up right there, didn't you? Yeah. I am the main event.
Yeah.
My youngest likes to tease me that I've only ever worked in 2 main events. To which my response is, it doesn't matter where the hell I am on the card, I am the main event.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what? There used to be an old adage in wrestling that the death spot was the second match. And you made the second match important to me. So no, that's the bottom line. I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I believe that every spot on the card is just as important, and it's yours to make for your own.
Exactly.
And I think if you're ever moaning about where you are on a card, shut up and make it your own spot. That's the best advice I can give to you. Be thankful that you're on a card in the first place, because that means you're one of the lucky few. Anything you want to add, mate?
I do not believe so. I think we've covered all the bases there, haven't we?
We have. Is there anyone in particular that you hate in wrestling?
No.
Kayfabe, of course.
Sorry?
Kayfabe, of course.
No, there isn't actually. I can say I've been very blessed at every locker room I've been in. I've met nothing but decent people. I've heard plenty of stories that there are some assholes out there, but I haven't had the misfortune of working with any of them at any point so far. So,
to be honest, for all my bombastic nature, the majority, I'd say 99% of people I've worked with have been a real pleasure. And none more so than yourself, mate. One of my favorite people in wrestling by some margin. It's you and Brandon Lee battling for 1 and 2. Phenomenal human being. I wish you the very best of success, mate. I think, you know, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I will. I said from the get-go you had something special, and we're now starting to see that. And to be honest, that's not on me. That's on you. Your hard work, your graft, your effort, and your humility backstage really shines through when you work out there. You're one of the most valuable assets to any company that you get to work on. So yeah, just keep being fucking amazing, keep being a main event, and I look very much forward to seeing you grow even more as a wrestler, mate.
Well, thank you ever so much for those kind words. Thank you for the opportunity to come on here and do this. Really do appreciate it. Thank you ever so much, sir. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, follow Roger Sears on all social media. Keep an eye out for merch. And if you want to come to ACW, the next show is December the 3rd. It's at Parkstone Trades and Labour Club. Don't forget, that's December the 3rd. I believe they're going back to the normal start time of the evening. It's not an earlier start time. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we're back to normal.
Doors at 7.
Yes.
Doors at 7, show starts at 7:30. You can buy tickets online at Ticket Source. We'll provide the link as well for that in the description of the podcast or whenever it's available. And I'm sure the poster won't take too much longer to get dropped. Will it, buddy? Looking at those socials, pal. But yeah, no, it's honestly one of the coolest places. You can get to Parkstone, which is around the Poole region and Bournemouth region. It's highly worth the time. Tickets are really affordable as well, normally around £7.50, and that is an absolute bargain to see some of the best wrestling. The main event, Roger Sears, will be in the house, and of course, the main event, which isn't the proper main event because you're not in it, is Ollie Blake versus Scott Jones for the ACW title, but nobody cares about those scrubs. I'm paying my money to see Roger Sears. Hi, Scott. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Just give him a can of Iron Brew and he'll be fine. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the Wrestle Plug, but most importantly, thank you very much, Roger Sears, for joining us at the Wrestle Plug.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, sir.